My whole reasoning behind wanting a well-trained dog is to be able to give that dog a better life. I've trained dogs for the public for decades before I became famous. We're developing family personal protection dogs. My passion, my love is educating the public. I want people to get the most out of their dog. I have 4 decades of experience, and now I'm here to give you practical advice on all things dog. Bow wow. Hello, I'm David Harris, Master Trainer and CEO of Protection Dog Sales, and this is our inaugural podcast of All Things Dog. And the purpose of this podcast is to give back to the community. We have benefited from training dogs for decades. We're very happy to have served the public for all these years. And we just got the idea that we could give back by creating this podcast where you'll be able to dial in and ask questions. People will come to us for solutions to problems, and we're going to help them with their problems. We're going to discuss things like products that people use with their dogs. Is this a good flea treatment? Is that a bad flea treatment? Should we be doing this vaccine or should we not be doing this vaccine? And to be clear, I'm not a veterinarian. I'm an animal behaviorist with 4 decades of experience, practical experience. Here at Protection Dog Sales, we develop, train, and sell dogs all over the world, and we raise approximately 100 dogs per year and have been doing that for decades, and that is experience. One of the things I would like to do to sort of sum up here is to talk a little bit more about my experience and how I got to where I am today. I came to Kentucky in 1987 with 3 German Shepherd puppies and a pregnant wife and no place to live. And did I mention I had $300 to my name? And so I was able to build a thriving all-breed dog training business literally from scratch. And that forced me to really dig into a fundamental that other trainers simply didn't have because I was desperate. I had no choice. Either you can get this work done or go hungry. So my background is I've always been a dog lover. I've always been a dog enthusiast. I've had dogs my entire life. I went to Oklahoma State University looking for a way to get into veterinary medicine. That was my goal. I didn't know at the time that I wasn't going to meet up those requirements. I didn't have the financial backing. I didn't have the history to be able to pull that off. So I segued into animal husbandry, genetics, psychology of dogs, and studying all methods of training. The keys to our success here and my success in my career has been not having a one-size-all dog training method. When you try to train dogs with the same method, obviously some dogs are going to fail. Some owners are going to fail because not every method fits every owner. So that's one of the things we want to flesh out here in this podcast, All Things Dog, is helping you decide what is the right method of training for your dog. One of the things we really want to help you here is to raise your expectations about what your dog is capable of. Everybody has a different thing that's important to them. One of the hardest things for me to learn as a professional dog trainer is what's important to me is not always important to you. So we're going to help you figure out what's important to you and your dog and how to help you build a better relationship to your dog. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, the purpose of this podcast is to give back to the dog community. Where our business is thriving, we're very successful. We don't need to make money from a podcast, so that is not the purpose of this podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to give you honest, down-to-earth information about how you can enjoy your dog more, how your dog can have a more stress-free life through training, guidance, and development. I'm well known as a protection dog trainer, and people are often surprised to know that my personal dog is a Chihuahua, or better known as a Chihuahua. And I've had a Chihuahua my entire life. I got a Chihuahua when I was a child because I had severe asthma. And someone told my mother, if you'll get your son a Chihuahua, it will cure his asthma. And voila, here I am, 60 years later, cured of asthma. So these things are covered in both mythology and science, and we're going to be talking about how that happened and how my asthma was cured by a Chihuahua, or was it really? Okay, so today we're going to cover another subject, breed selection, why this breed is better than that breed for this purpose, and why this breed's not suited for that purpose. And what's really important to understand is there are hundreds and hundreds of different breeds available to choose from when you're looking to get a dog. And there are tons and tons of breed books that will help you figure out what is the right kind of dog. I recently wrote an article for our podcast. I'm sorry, not our podcast. This is our podcast for our blog, talking about breed selection and the things to be careful about when you read breed-specific books. I'll give you a little hint. Breed-specific books are written by breeders, and the breeders want to sell their breed. So oftentimes they'll sugarcoat that information. Here at this podcast, we're not selling you anything. We're not going to sugarcoat anything. We're going to tell you what the good things are about your breed, what are the bad things about your breed. Not that there's really anything bad, but things you should know. If you're going to develop a dog for a purpose, you should know that terriers like to dig, and hound dogs like to sniff the ground and run, and Siberian Huskies don't come when they're called. Okay, and there's a reason for that. And how you're going to learn about those reasons is understanding what that dog's purpose was. All breeds started out with a purpose, and sometimes that purpose is just to look cute. But if you dig back even further into their history, you'll find that somebody had a purpose for that breed. Why are Chihuahuas so fierce? Originally, they were small hunting dogs, and they were very, very independent and very confident and very tough. And they weren't little. They were big dogs. My first Chihuahua, Jose, was a 20-pound dog, and that was normal for Chihuahuas at that point in time. Over the years, they've been bred smaller and smaller and different types and for different purposes. Most are just companion dogs now, lap dogs. And once again, that's a purpose. So as we look into the different breeds and we talk to you about, why you got this particular dog and what problems you're having associated with that breed, it'll kind of all come together, and you'll start understanding better how to look at your dog and not just see a cute dog, but to see the underlying genetic history that drives a lot of the behaviors that you're very happy about or you're very unhappy about. But once again, people go into purchasing a dog for all kinds of reasons. I asked people, I did surveys, hundreds and hundreds of surveys with people who came to me for training, and one of the things I asked them in the very beginning was, how did you pick this dog? How did you pick this dog out of the litter? And I very often got, well, he was the biggest puppy in the litter, or he was the smallest puppy in the litter, or even worse, he was the only puppy left. Okay, so people simply had no criteria. They had no understanding of what they should be looking for, what they should be asking when they went to select a breed. So hopefully as we flesh these things out and we get into the live phase where you're allowed to come in and ask questions with us here at All Things Dog, we'll be able to dive in deeper and answer those questions to help you understand what is driving you crazy about your dog and why that should be expected. Once again, I talked earlier about terriers like to dig. I had a customer not too long ago that had a West Highlands White Terrier. And if you've ever seen one, you've seen them all, because they all look exactly alike. They're almost like little clones. But she was very, very upset that this dog liked to dig in her garden. And she thought because it was a cute, toy, white breed that it wouldn't want to dig holes. But it's a terrier. Terriers like to dig. The sight hounds, like greyhounds, they want to run. The hound dogs, like bloodhounds and plot hounds and the red-bone coon hounds, they want to find prey. They want to hunt. They want to put their nose to the ground and go find prey. So what we'll talk about when we get into this breed selection is, what was the purpose? So people will buy a dog that instincts are counter to what they want. If you want a dog that's independent, then that's the kind of dog you would like to have, is a dog that was bred to work on its own. When you set a black and tan coonhound loose in the woods, he's not going to look over his shoulder and go, "Hey, are you coming along?" He doesn't care if you come. So don't get upset if your hound dog runs off and leaves you. That's their nature. Can you imagine if you were a hunter and you took your amazing blue ribbon winning hound dog out in the woods and you turned him loose and he just wanted to sit next to you and snuggle? That dog wouldn't get to come home on the truck. I guarantee you the hunter's not interested in snuggling. He's interested in that dog leaving him and going out in the woods and hunting, because he doesn't know where the raccoons are. The dog knows where the raccoons are, thanks to his amazing olfactory sense of smell. The dog's sense of smell is amazing. So we want hound dogs not to be independent, not to look to you for direction. We want them to run and gun and go out there. And guess how we find them? We bred them to bark, okay? And they bark when they tree the raccoon, and we can find them. That's the only way we can find them. Now, of course, in the modern times, we have GPS tracking collars and all that. But back when I was a boy and following coonhounds through the woods in Oklahoma, we couldn't find them if they didn't bark. And we knew each dog's individual bark. That was the fun part of actually going out and tromping through the woods at night and following behind hound dogs that were hunting by instinct. Now, flip that script. You don't want to chase after a hound dog through the woods until you find them because they're barking. You want a dog that looks to you for direction. And that's where different types of breeds come in handy. Golden Retriever is the absolute opposite, diametrically opposed to a dog like a hound dog. A Golden Retriever looks to you for direction. It says, "Which bird do you want me to retrieve?" They're not just running around grabbing birds out of the air. They're looking to you and saying, "What do you want me to do?" So once again, you can see how different that is. Hound dog is independent, doesn't care what you think. If he cared what you think, it would interfere with his ability to do his job. Golden Retriever is the opposite. They look to people for direction. They say, "What is important to you?" They're sensitive, they're intelligent, and they want to make you happy. And there's a lot of breeds like that. German Shepherds are like that. Golden Retrievers are like that. There's a lot of breeds that their job is to follow your task. And then there's other dogs that hunt by instinct. So understanding that alone is going to give you a big boost in the right direction at deciding what kind of dog do you want. Even if you're not interested in hunting or doing obedience as a sport, understanding the instincts that this dog has is going to put you moving in the right direction. Now, you might be sitting there listening to this and saying, "Well, I already have a dog. How does this apply to me?" Well, it applies to you in the sense of understanding what drives your dog's behavior, okay? If you're getting upset because your terrier digs, it'll help you to understand that that's what that dog was bred for. Now, that doesn't mean it's acceptable. We're going to have to work against that. We want that dog not to dig up our amazing garden. We don't want our coonhound to run away from us. We want to be able to walk it, take it places, and do things with it off leash and have it come when it's called. But knowing that is the dog's instinct will help us get ahead of it before it becomes a massive problem that's very difficult to fix. So we're going to talk about different training methods and how they apply to different breeds. We're going to talk about how to evaluate your dog. Your dog could be what in Oklahoma we called a Sooner. A Sooner is a mixed breed dog, and the father got there sooner than the other dogs did, okay? So that's how we got Sooners in Oklahoma. There's a story behind that as well, but we'll save that for another day. But when you have a dog that's a mixed breed dog, there's a lot of guesswork. Of course, there's genetic testing now that's dubious in its accuracy, but you can tell a lot about what are the influences with your dog by observing its behavior and sort of putting together a puzzle like a Sherlock Holmes mystery. What's in this dog and what's driving this behavior, and comparing it to what you might know from reading about different breeds in an all-breed book like this Simon & Schuster book here on my desk. So once again, understanding instinct, how it applies to the behaviors that your dog are doing. These are the kind of things we could talk about here on this podcast, All Things Dog. We're going to be having a lot of fun telling stories and relating them to your lifestyle and your dog and things that have happened to you. I tell a story a lot, ties back into what I talked about in our last podcast, which was expectations. When I take my little cute Chihuahua with me to the marina, she's always off leash and she's trotting along, following me everywhere I go. If I want to go into the store at the marina, I tell her to hop up on the picnic table, or not the table, but on the bench out in front of the marina, and I just leave her there. And I go in the store and I do my thing and I come back out, and there's always a crowd of people around my little Chihuahua, and they are very upset. And I'm like, why are you people upset? And they're like, we thought this dog was lost. We tried to get her to get off the bench and she wouldn't get off the bench. She was ignoring them completely. And they're like, oh my God, we were so upset. We thought she was lost and we didn't know how we were going to help her. And I'm like, she's not lost. She's doing what she was told to do. I told her to stay there on the bench, and she's doing that. And they're very surprised, shocked that a Chihuahua could be obedient. And they're like, they always say to me, my dog would never do that. And I look at them and I go, have you tried? And they're like, no, David, you don't understand. My dog would never do that. And I go, have you tried? And this conversation goes on for a minute before I realize that their expectation of their dog is so low, okay? They've never seen a Chihuahua that was obedient, that came when it was called, could go places off leash, could enjoy that freedom. And that's, what I think is the purpose behind dog training, is to give your dog a better life. It can go more places, do more things, be a bigger part of the family. It's a very, very positive cycle. So when you select the right breed, when you develop that dog properly, when you train it properly, and you understand its instincts, its natural behaviors, and how that applies to your lifestyle, you're going to have a lot less stress in your life. Your dog's going to have a lot less stress in its life, and then you're going to be able to go more places and do more things with your dog. I always say it this way. It's a very positive cycle. The better your dog behaves, the more you handle it. The more you handle it, the better it's going to behave. The opposite of that is when your dog doesn't behave, well, you can't take it anywhere. And when you can't take it anywhere, you can't have outings with the dog. When you can't interact with the dog, you can't even bring the dog in the house sometimes. I trained a boxer for a lady years ago, and when I came to her home to do the evaluation, I said, well, where's the dog? And the dog was tied to the doorknob of the back porch, and it lived there. She couldn't only let it in the house as long as the leash would get in there, because the dog was a boxer, and it was knock her down and lick her to death, and it was unacceptable. So that dog went from a cute, rambunctious puppy to a 80-pound boxer tied to the back door. And she loved that dog. It wasn't about loving it. It got out of control. The less she handled it, the worse it got. The worse it got, the less she was able physically to handle that dog. So those are the kind of things we want to avoid. We want to get ahead of and help you solve those problems so your dog can become a bigger part of your life. So once again, understanding what your dog was bred to do. Was it bred to hunt independently, like a hound dog, or sight hounds, greyhounds? They don't care if you're coming. They're going to chase. They're going to go. Or like a golden retriever, a dog or a spaniel. These dogs look to you for direction and say, what do you want me to do? So those are important concepts and things that most people never think about. And then segueing back to that concept of having high expectations. The more you believe that your dog is capable, the more effort you're going to put into that. And it's going to be a very, very positive cycle. We're going to see slow, incremental improvement week by week. Your dog's going to start looking to you for direction. One of the things we'll be doing on this podcast in the near future is videotaping some demonstrations of our dogs in action. And one of the things you're going to see very, very quickly with our dogs is focus. focus under heavy distraction. The more the distraction, the better our dogs focus, because we teach them. Distractions are a trick. If you fall for that distraction, it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to work out. You're not going to get to play with the ball. You're not going to get your favorite treat. You might even get a correction. Shocking. We're going to correct dogs. Yes, we believe in balance here. All Things Dog is going to talk about a balanced approach to raising and training dogs, both positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. And a little insight. We actually know what those terms mean. We're not just giving lip service. Giving positive reinforcement isn't about giving cookies, and negative reinforcement isn't about just giving corrections. It's a psychology that underlies all that, and we're going to try to help you understand how to reinforce, make stronger behaviors that you like, and how to get rid of behaviors that you don't like. So communication, focus, timing, we're going to demonstrate those things in real time for you. We're going to be doing some live events. We're just going to have a great old time here because we all love dogs and we want to learn more and more about dogs. And here's the place where you can learn all things dog. Hope you enjoyed that. We're going to be back soon talking more and more about all things dog, and we're looking forward to having your questions, answering those as we go along. And the more feedback we get, the better we're going to do. So be sure to send us some questions and reach out and tell us what you want to hear about. If there's a topic that I can't talk on, I don't know what that is. So look forward to hearing from you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed that little bit of a podcast.
You've been watching or listening to the All Things Dog podcast, hosted by Master Dog Trainer and CEO David Harris. You can visit David's company website at protectiondogsales.com or follow him on social media by searching David Harris Protection Dog Sales, where you will find tens of thousands of videos, both educational and entertaining.
Bow wow.